wearing masks, of course, because they're cowards.
Cowards.
Too. So it wasn't just as I go in and as everyone goes into this event that you're being harassed throughout the event. It's not a giant building. We're on the second floor, but you can see them outside, and they were pounding on drums, screaming, and at one point banging on the door. A gun was like drawn in response to, are we about to be invaded and attacked?
In other
during
words,
the event.
Security people.
Security people, yeah.
Whoa.
Went down with,
So you felt threatened?
Yes, it was intimidating, yeah.
Wow.
And several people did
Holy cow.
Get arrested, yeah.
First-hand report from Jennifer Bukowski.
Yeah.
The one guy, Ron Hicks, he got grabbed on the arm, and then if they touch you, the police officers there could arrest you, and so several got arrested.
Good for them.
And there were a number of them kicked out of the gallery during the speech too. There was a speech in the House chamber.
Yes, I heard about that. The speech was from the council, right?
Yeah,
Some Miami council. Or something?
and no one was physically attacked or anything like that, but there were people that were disrupting the speech, and they were carrying some, they were holding up signs and stuff like that, but they were screaming about genocide. At one point, one of them actually screamed. I don't know if she was talking to Blocker, the speaker, or the lieutenant governor, who said, "You're going to be remembered for this forever." And there was some cursing as well. There was Channel 8 had video of it. I was not aware of the. Hopefully, John.
Yeah, I don't know how well some of I started videoing some of these people. I retweeted on my @Esquire on Fire, ESQ on Fire, a couple of the videos by the protesters that show. Like Judge Green's walking in and they're all screaming at him, or other people having to jump over a barrier to get into the event. And they were like, oh, this event is not off to a good start because we're all here to try to stop it. And it was.
Well, it's a peaceful protest. Just a peaceful protest.
I'm responsible for killing a bunch of kids in Gaza because I'm going to an event.
Well, that's the question.
Being held every year for 5 years.
On the one hand, what is the Missouri General Assembly? What kind of jurisdiction do they have over what's going on in Gaza?
It's a resolution more than anything else. I mean, the governor ordered the dome to be lit blue and white, and that was back in the fall. We reported on that. It's more of a symbolic, but there are pro-Palestinian activists who have encouraged the Columbia City Council to pass a resolution. Again, these are symbolic because it's really, it's although they have the ability to do it, both sides have the ability to do that. Was there enough security? Do you feel like Capitol?
When I got there, there was. When the first people got there, there wasn't because they couldn't get through. Like they had barriers erected, and they finally had to go over. One of my friends, Camilla, she had to go over a fence thing in a dress, as did all the men. And there's a video on that I retweeted on my ESQ on Fire Twitter.
She gave a shout out to the gentleman who held her purse while she tried to go over the barrier.
They were blocking us. They were trying to block. By the time I got there, they had police presence in front and in back, so they couldn't literally be stopping us from getting into the event. But then later, when Tim Jones tried to get in there, he also was stuck outside for 10 minutes because they could not get through the protesters to get into the event. Him and a state senator.
And he's a former speaker of the Missouri House.
Yeah.
And isn't this ironic? Just a few days ago, was it last week? What was it, 5 or 7? A handful of people are now going to face up to 10 years in jail because they peacefully protested at an abortion clinic and they violated the SAFE law. Isn't that funny? Peacefully. They didn't block anyone from going into the abortion clinic. They were just protesting. Yeah. Isn't it ironic? And yet these people can do this, prevent your physical access or try to obstruct it, and then they're just going to. And
there might have been people that were going to go and listen to IPAC. They only come once a year, what they had to say, but were intimidated by this crowd, and they succeeded in scaring them away. I was a woman by myself, but I saw the police were there, and I'm like, hell with these people. I'm going to this event. But it was not unintimidating to walk through the crowd because I started at the front, so I got all 3 sides of the building screaming at me.
Men, women, what was the demographic?
There's a lot of young women.
Mostly
which is
young?
It pisses me off, Randy, because that Gaza, you're treated like second-class citizen.
Yeah.
You're so oppressed. You have no freedom. These women are free to be out and about, yelling and screaming at me. But over there, they have to do what their husband tells them.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Wow. But the event did go on. I mean, finally.
Oh, yeah, it happened. But they screamed and banged on drums.
And banged
throughout
on the door.
whole thing. And then we're banging on the door.
So, John Marsh, how will we, I'm curious, we rarely hear and I don't mean from you guys, because this is what you do. You and Brian do a good job on this. You said 30 people were arrested?
No, I don't know.
Oh, no,
I know of at least two.
Just a few.
Okay, a few were arrested.
Heard.
How will we know what happens to these people? Unlike other jurisdictions where immigrants, illegal alien thugs can beat up a police officer and they're released and give the middle finger up in New York. Will something different happen in Heartland where we know the difference between good and evil, where you can peacefully protest, but you're not supposed to touch someone? You're not supposed to make them feel intimidated? What will be the follow-through on this? How will we know?
I don't think there's going to be much follow-through. I know some of the reports we were getting from the folks who were down there, well, at least at the Capitol, they said they initially took one person into custody and then released them almost immediately.
Now, why?
So it's one of those kind of deals. And we heard some radio traffic in the early evening where law enforcement was talking very seriously about stepping up to response at Jen's event and calling in some backup and all. They were genuinely concerned about
Yeah, the
this.
governor was supposed to attend. I heard secondhand that he ended up not because of the security concerns. And during the event, Jay Ashcroft, our friend of the show and everything, the police brought him to the side to talk to him because they were concerned for his safety too, I believe.
Jay's going to be with us a little
he'll
later.
be with us
in
at
the
8:10,
8 o'clock
so
hour.
he can speak
8:10,
to that firsthand.
Wow.
And just to follow up on that, and John of course is following everything that happened in Jefferson City, but you're asking about a follow up. The people that were basically asked to leave or escorted out of the gallery from the House chamber, probably not anything. They were a handful of them, probably 6 to 10 of them were the event. So nothing. I don't expect anything to happen to them. The event that Jen's referring to, ultimately, that would be up to the prosecutor in Cole County, Locke Thompson.
Okay, I'm worked up over this. Is there not an assault?
I think
if
the
you
people
touch
that got
someone
it, I think that those people
with
will
a threatening
see
manner,
if they were arrested, then Locke Thompson will make a decision on prosecution, and then you can follow it on case.
we're going to make a decision on prosecution. There's no decision. You were threatened. You were touched, or someone was touched.
They always make a decision.
They make a
whether to file
decision.
it.
Oh, they make a decision, right?
Well, he might decide. I mean, Randy, it might decide to prosecute him.
And again,
they need to prosecute him. Prosecutor in Cole County, you need to prosecute him.
Well,
I'm not saying that he's not. He probably will.
Well, okay.
and he is.
If you don't prosecute him, we're going to be on you. This is ridiculous.
Randall.
I had to pay a parking ticket because there's a law.
Blown his casket over here.
Simmer down.
And
this is the problem with the United States of America. This is unacceptable that you should have felt threatened, that Jay Ashcroft should have felt threatened, because I don't mind that they have a problem. I don't mind that they protest. I don't even mind that they are vocal. They have no earthly right to be intimidating you, period. It's ridiculous.
It was intimidating.
I'd be curious what the listeners think.
Well, I would too. This is ridiculous. I'm sorry.
I'd be curious, but
Americans they've had it.
Well, and to be
Big development that will calm me down, I think, Randy, is Ronna McDaniel's out. We thought we were stuck with her for another year, but Trump says that Ronna McDaniel knows she should step down as RNC chair. So it looks like she is going to be resigning early. She had the contested race against Harmeet Dillon, who I wanted to win last year. And she had agreed that she wasn't going to run again, but she was supposed to be the one that brought us in the cycle. And I'll tell you what, Randy, I'm a donor. I'm activist. I work with RNC. I've been a delegate for the RNC to 2 conventions now. They were they're just not raising money and not being professionals. They sent me an email being like, do you want to participate in a phone call with Ronna McDaniel, where I just get to call in and listen to her basically pitch me and all the other listeners on the call to donate money. I'm like, I care about the party. I should do this. Then I say, okay, I'll RSVP. I'll carve time off my calendar to hear them out. What do? They email me back saying, okay, to get the call-in number, you need to donate this amount of money. I'm like, I'm a donor already. This is just rude. Who does that? Invite someone and then uninvite them and be like, to do a call-in?
It's coercive.
It's not. It was rude. So I didn't do it, not because I didn't want to donate. I was being open-minded to donate, but now I'm not.
Yeah.
So they need more sophisticated people running the show because we keep losing.
I read about a really posh apartment that she had and a lot of allegations of expenditures going to, all kinds of frivolous stuff, parties and this and that in the RNC, but not for voter registration, this kind of stuff. And,
and we need it for lawyers.
Yeah.
So that's the concern because, I myself and Mark Ellinger and now Stephanie Bell will too get deployed to these battleground states to help with the election. RNC is supposed to have money for that. If they're not raising money, I worry about us not. And we know that the Democrats always have twice as many lawyers as we do. And so that's a real problem. So I hope whoever gets brought in, but you say you're not excited about who you're hearing might be named.
The reports
but I hope they can bring in some money.
The reports are it's a guy from North Carolina, Michael Whatley, who is Donald Trump's pick. He apparently has thrown that name in the hat. And he's a guy that was one of the very avid, election was rigged. It was a fake, phony election, guys. I'm not sure right now that there's a lot of appetite for that. I mean, that's sort of water under the bridge. So hopefully he won't be a guy that wants to relitigate that. If, in fact, he said, why don't you run?
Well,
I'm
not.
Be great.
I'm not a member of the RNC.
Oh, I thought you were. Okay.
Well, I'm involved, but I'm not one of the 4 people in our state that represent.
I see.
So I don't know that I'm eligible for it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if actually you have to be an elected person to be named.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I'm not I'm well connected, Randy. I'm not that well connected.
I nominate Jennifer.
I don't think I'm on any short list for that position.
John, I nominate Jennifer. Will you second that nomination? Okay, good.
I second.
The other news for D.C. is yesterday the appeals court denied Trump's immunity case in the 2020 election case. This is just a panel of the D.C. Court of Appeals. They could seek an en banc review.
Not to be confused with Mont Blanc, but it's an en blanc.
I'm not following.
I'm just kidding. The Mont Blanc is a pen. I was just joking.
Oh.
It was just pen.
Nerd alert. Did you
alert.
just try to make a joke about a pen?
About a pen. You know what Mont Blanc
yeah,
is?
Those
Okay, well, never mind. Sorry, that was
expensive pens.
Talk
20
about
pens.
Okay, we got. Okay, so
they
now
found that Donald Trump is not
appeals
immune
court.
from criminal
consistency. John, you're going to get this. It has to do with consistency in the application of the law. It strikes me funny because, folks, if you're just joining us here on Wake Up in Missouri, I got a little, I guess the word would actually be triggered. I don't know, something set me off. Because Jennifer was involved in an event last night, going to an event sponsored by AIPAC, which is a Jewish community support group. I would say that they support Israeli things and Jewish causes, right?
Right.
And I think it was the general counsel from the Jewish council in Miami was speaking at the House yesterday. So is that the guy? Yeah.
Well, yeah. AIPAC, it's more than 3 million proud pro-Israel Americans working to strengthen bipartisan support for the U.S.-Israel relationship.
Meir Elbaz Starinsky, Consul General of Israel in Miami, addressed members of both the House and the Senate yesterday. Several people were protesting and disrupting things in the House, and they took them out. Okay, that's fine.
But the numbers were nowhere near what they were at the event later on.
Then you went across the street to up the hill to this event center.
Yeah.
You encountered a crowd.
Hundreds of people.
There was a human barrier there.
Yes, surrounding the building on 3 sides.
You reported that at least one person with whom you have personal knowledge was touched, was grabbed.
Well, I didn't see it, but that was what the person told me.
Okay.
Yes. And once she did that, the police arrested that person that grabbed him.
So they must have seen that, or else they wouldn't have arrested him. Okay.
Yeah, once they were there watching, as soon as they touch you or grab you, then they can arrest him.
And my point is, I'm sort of a black and white, right and wrong, slippery slopes to be avoided kind of a guy. Yeah. And my simple question was, so slam dunk, that's a felony. When you touch someone.
That's not a felony to touch someone on the arm.
It's an assault.
Yeah, assault
in that setting,
3rd degree, which is a misdemeanor.
Well, okay, it's a misdemeanor. Okay, it's a crime. It's something you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Something you shouldn't do. And I just am now, and I'm not saying, I don't know Mr. Lockman from Beans, but what I'm appealing.
Locke Thompson.
Lockman. Sorry, Locke Thompson.
Come on, man.
I'm telling you, this is an appeal. I'm speaking for Americans who I think are tired of, and I'm not saying Mr. Thompson isn't aggressive, but we've seen it here in Columbia, in Boone County. We've seen it across the nation with this prosecutorial discretion, which I think most Americans now think means let people off the hook and then let them go do other things because they have permission to do stuff. And so I'm imploring Mr. Thompson to have a zero tolerance policy. Why don't we have a zero tolerance policy? You either
it seems like they did because they saw him touch it, they arrested it. They'll refer that, I assume, presumably to the prosecutor's office to charge it.
But then you use this word, DISCRETION, 10-letter word that is becoming a foul word to me. Why? What discretion? There's a law. There's a statute.
This is ironic because you're so pro prosecutor and you're complaining about the discretion. I feel oppositely about it because every time we have a law that's so vague, they're like, it's okay, we'll use our discretion. We won't over abuse this power that we have. But they could. They could charge a kid who has a joint that gives a kid another joint at school with a Class A felony. And they might in some rural things. Because that's on school property and it's drug dealing, then you can enhance that all the way up to a Class A felony.
But don't you think at some point that we have gone soft on crime? I'm just thinking, but I think that law and order is crazy.
Doing it okay here.
We have a soft on crime policy in America.
No, in some places in America where you have these George Soros-based prosecutors. This is interesting because I just moderated a panel in the state capitol at the Federalist Society annual Missouri Chapters Conference on this very topic, Randy, and I read this book, Rogue Prosecutors, that our friend
Zach
from
Smith.
Heritage, he was on the panel here in town for this, and it's starting in 2015. George Soros started funding these so-called and self-described progressive prosecutors, and they have been undoing a lot of the hard work that we've done for criminal justice reform to be smart on crime and more cost-efficient on crime to actually make us safer and waste more money on the system because they are just declining to prosecute for basic things like shoplifting, and that just leads to more lawlessness and a more dangerous society, which is not the purpose of their job.
I wasn't,
but that's not everywhere. But it is places like the city of St. Louis. While we had Kim Gardner, there's a whole chapter in that book devoted to her.
Here, Randy, I have something for you.
My appeal was, let's keep an eye on our local prosecutors. Let's make sure that they're doing the right thing, that they're not letting people off the hook, because we don't want people feeling threatened. You said, you used the word you felt intimidated, and I asked you if you felt threatened. You said yes. You shouldn't have to be threatened in the United States of America because you're going to an event. You shouldn't feel
I was
threatened.
Intimidated.
And
For sure.
intimidated.
But luckily the police were there.
Talk to anybody who covered the Black Lives Matter protests and all. Back to the First Amendment argument, I can tell you from the ones I covered and all, I was uncomfortable myself.
And then Gary makes the point, Randy probably would have liked the ticket lady to use a little discretion since he was only 6 minutes late. Yeah, you got me there.
No, I've been there in Jet City when they're putting a third ticket on my car.
Yeah.
This is last year at the Federalist Society Chapters Conference. And I'm like, oh, good. She's pulling up behind me, but she won't give me this next ticket because I'm here getting in my car, loading my car to leave. Nope, she sped up and probably broke the speed limit in her little golf cart to give me that third ticket before I got out of. I was literally leaving.
See, this goes to our thing on Monday when I went on a little rant because was it Monday? Friday. Because I got a little ticket from Ron.
It was supposed to be a feel-good Friday.
It was personally signed by Ron Fitzwater. Thanks for overstaying your parking limit.
$6 is nothing for a parking ticket. Like they need to boost that up if they want me to make sure I plug my meter down there.
It was the handling charge you didn't like.
Oh, and then $2 for a convenience fee. Yeah, right. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, government gets away with that. Credit card companies, you can't, as a merchant, charge people for the processing fees and still have your agreement with the credit card companies. But government exempts itself from that, so they're always charging you that convenience fee.
So yeah, look, I guess I'm for more discretion when there's a totally non-violent crime.
Yeah, you're wanting simple solutions to complex problems, Randy, and that just is not the way the criminal justice system works. You have ranges of offense for a reason. You have ranges of punishment for a reason. Not everyone has the same criminal background, and no two situations are exactly alike when it comes to the offense itself. So prosecutors should be using their discretion as to what level to charge it, what kind of offer to make, whether or not to charge it, depending on the circumstances. Would there be an affirmative defense? Could there be a self-defense?
Okay.
All kinds of things could happen, and that's why
I'm convinced.
do need discretion in how to do their jobs.
I just hope that they use discretion that leans more towards the side of a close to zero tolerance for certain things. That's violence. When there's threats and violence, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But
no one touched me. They were calling me the B word. They were screaming at me. They were telling me that I'm a baby killer, basically, because I'm going to detention.
Andy says we need to see. There we go. The Jedi strike back here. The Jedi are returning. We have to hold the judges accountable, too, not just the prosecutors. That's right.
Well, that's certainly the case with the migrants, that they assaulted cops on video and then got let out. That was the prosecutor and the judge's fault.
So let me ask you this.
Oh, boy.
Are you defending that the criminal justice system? Are you saying everything's copacetic, everything's cool?
Of course
nothing
not.
needs to be changed? Of course, there's major flaws with our criminal justice system.
Yeah, there are certainly problems, and a lot of times the problems, especially in the last 5-7 years, have been prosecutors who are not prosecuting.
And it's not
in major cities.
And you don't think that's in our area?
But not in Jefferson City,
in our area.
and not in Boone County.
Okay, there you go. Okay, that's what I wanted to get to, because I think a lot of us look across the landscape and we think, is this just a general, like education's gone so woke, and even in fairly conservative jurisdictions, you're seeing
Springfield, Missouri is like a prime example.
So that's why I'm just a little bit sunburnt. I think we all have a little PTSD when we see the stuff that people get away with across the land, and you think, my God, is it coming to a county near us? You know, that's all.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting for it to go south and there's rampant crime, you want to keep an eye on people. You want to say, hey, let's not let it go there.
We live in communities that are small enough that I think our elected officials, our elected prosecutors, feel accountable to the people and know that they're, so.
Oh, look at this. Charles says maybe if we had AI prosecutors to remove bias. Oh
gosh, the AI prosecutors. I love AI. I'm a big tech person. I brought my husband's Apple goggles with me here today because we were talking about that on Gary yesterday.
Yeah, so Jennifer's going to do her Stevie Wonder
AI
imitation.
AI does not get everything right, let me tell you.
When you do the Apple goggles, are you sort of doing like Stevie Wonder? They're doing
No, you
okay.
can see right through them. I could just talk to you and look at you.
So it's like augmented reality. It's not virtual reality. Augmented
you
reality.
can. It's augmented and it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Can it put hair on me?
probably. I'm
All right.
not that sophisticated.
Let's see if we can. John, you think we can augment it to that degree? Then I'll buy one.
No, I have seen that where you have different apps where they're doing that, where all of a sudden your husband's standing in the closet and he turns around and he looks like this movie star and then that movie star.
That goes back.
And then guess what? You're in your bedroom with your husband and he looks like Ryan Gosling all of a sudden.
Whoa.
Like, yeah, that's the thing.
You mean if I just picked up a mop and a bottle of bleach, I could look like the Mr. Clean guy in that commercial? The Super Bowl
That's the
commercial?
filter you have on, or you could look like, you could look like Taylor Swift's boyfriend suddenly to your wife. If she's wearing the goggles and she has the filter on, you could all of a sudden look like Brad Pitt.
And I'm probably closer to Taylor Swift's boyfriend's brother, Jason. That's
At least you keep your shirt
Hey, those
on.
are both good-looking guys.
okay, just from the neck down. That's me. Okay. All right, when we come back, we're gonna explore the world of the Apple goggles with Jennifer. Right?
Okay.
And because
Let's,
I've heard
fire
about
'em
those,
up.
but it'll be a lot of fun. We'll do that. And by the way, I Reagan would be 113 yesterday. And here's something
By
from
its
him.
very existence and character, Berlin remains the most compelling argument for an open world. We're reminded of the many traditions of openness and democracy that have marked the history of this city. America missed me.
Man, that was oratorical brilliance. That was in 1987. Remember, he'd been shot shortly after coming into office several years earlier, and a balloon popped during that speech. And just like that, he said, missed me. I thought, wow, John, you remember that moment? That was unbelievable.
He was pretty quick on his feet.
He was quick on his feet. And, there were similarities between Trump and Reagan in the sense of their entertainment quality and the humor that they brought into their politics. And there's few politicians that have that gift. I mean, I don't think that Trump is near as clever and nuanced, and it's not so much his humor just as it is his entertainment value. But that's a little extra twist that politicians, really the successful ones, bring into the mix. Now, John, can you see Jennifer is donning her new Apple goggles, right?
It looks like she's about to go skiing.
It does.
Yeah, she's got the Apple goggles, and she's looking like Patrick Mahomes. She's clicking her fingers. Like, are you looking for the signal coming in from the sideline? What are you doing?
Entering my husband's code here to open him up.
So by clicking your fingers together.
Yeah, so it's just like a computer. So now what I'm seeing Hannah.
Okay.
But I'm also seeing all the apps that you would see on like the home screen of your phone.
All the little icons are there floating in midair?
Yeah, floating in midair. And so it's watching where my eyes look.
Yeah.
That's my cursor.
Okay.
And then if I ever want to, I just opened photos. Depending on where your eyes are, that's the app that's selected. Now I'm seeing all the photos from my phone. I have a screen right there that's open. You can also open up your TV thing, like your shows or whatever.
Yeah.
And you could be sitting in your living room, and I see you right now. You can hold up some figures. Like I see you just like you see me.
Is the quality, is the resolution really good?
Yeah, really good.
Really good.
And so I could be walking around, I can walk around right now.
Yeah, you look a little weird, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's a little heavy, I think, and the battery life is not amazing. So they'll be improving that as time goes on. But you could pull up a movie, and I'm not talking to the microphone now, but you could pull up a movie and sit either in your living room, or you could be sitting on a beach in a beautiful area, or in the mountains with stars above you at night. Wow. and snow all around you. And it does alter your reality. There's a dinosaur thing that comes in, and it's like the dinosaur, it's scary, steps out of this portal into your living room.
I know that Stephanie Bell, even though she's not here, she's listening either on the 93.9 The Eagle mobile app or the KWOS mobile app. She's listening right now, and somewhere she's clicking add to cart.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So here's the question. I mean, is this really, have we now come to... Remember the guy in Star Trek, the guy that looked like he had a headband in front of his eyes? Gordy. Remember Gordy, John?
Yeah.
And remember, he could see through the eye. It was a visor eyepiece. Remember, is that where we're at now, Jennifer?
I hope so, and I hope they turn into glasses sized. And then when I see people that I know, I should know their names.
Oh, that's a good
pop
one.
Up. It'd be like, this is John Thompson or whatever, and I'll be like, hi John, how do you do? Then I could click with my eyes and be like, remind me his wife's name and what is his job again, how do I know him, and be searching for all that information without him knowing it.
Is there an out-facing camera to where you could let's say?
Yeah, I'm not literally looking through these goggles. It's actually cameras that I'm seeing everything.
So in other words, last night when you were involved in this protest, you weren't involved in the protest, but the protest was getting in your way. You could have, instead of launching your phone and being in their face with a phone, you could do something to actually be taking pictures and they wouldn't know it.
Yeah, I could have recorded them with those.
Recorded the whole deal.
Yeah.
Wow. Now that's impressive.
I did record them with my phone, even though.
And it's on your Twitter? You put some stuff
I retweeted some because my videos were not great because I didn't always have the camera level, but I do have several videos I could show you.
I wish you'd have caught that protester is threatened innocently trying to go into an AIPAC meeting, that would be Jennifer Bukowski,
Good morning.
who certainly can handle her. I know you
I was
can
going to say,
defend yourself.
while I respect that notion, I think Jennifer is more than capable of handling.
And everyone out there knows that it's a natural, John, you know what I mean here. It's a natural instinct for the male of our species to get their dander up, to get their bowels in an uproar, to get the testosterone makes the muscles grow and the sword is raised to defend the damsel in distress, right? You know that.
What sword are we talking about?
Right?
I don't know.
Hannah! What is with Hannah? All these double entendres.
Well, the damsel in distress may or may not have been packing. So there's that.
That's
as
what
well.
I was hinting at, but I didn't know if, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry.
And I was not the only one, let me tell you.
I'm sorry. Anyone that wants to dispute it is denying the truth. Women, look, I said it to you yesterday, truly, that if it weren't for you, Hannah, and Jennifer, and Stephanie, and all the gals in my life that help take care of my dysfunction, right? I mean, women are nurturers by nature. They need to nurture the guys in their life because
Some women.
Lord knows guys need help, right? We need help. And women nurture. Who does a better job of raising children, right? In general, we all know this. There's no secret about this. Women are naturally more nurturing than men are. And so I just got a little triggered when I heard that you felt intimidated by this group of Palestinian protesters that was obstructing your view, obstructing your entrance into the thing. That's all. You got a problem with that?
No. I appreciate it. I appreciate that
And I'm not
instinct to
saying
protect because I can't really take people in a fight. So it's good to have good men around that are willing to
Well, that's
keep
all.
everyone peaceful.
And I think men appreciate the fact that in general, women are much better at multitasking. Hannah has to regularly, I'm focused on the computer. I'm looking at a story and she's like, Jennifer's trying to talk to you, but I'm focused on one thing. Right, now, is that not true, Brian?
Well,
There's a certain biological truth to this.
I would say this about what Jen said. I think if you felt intimidated, and the banging on the drums that you're saying, the banging on the drums, banging on the doors, I've not seen that type of and I wasn't there yesterday. I'm going by what you said, but I mean I've just
blood on your hands.
There's been protests before. There was a protest one time. Elijah Har and Mary Elizabeth Coleman had a pro-life bill, basically it's a heartbeat bill, and there were protesters. They started yelling, but they didn't bang anything, and nobody was physically touched or anything like that, and they were told to leave, and they were. So this is
something
this
like
is
I'm
different.
like this is like something you see in Fox News, happening in
Yeah.
other cities. This is not normally something you see in Jeff. I've been going to Jeff for years and years now. I've never seen anything like this. There's so many people, and they're all so angry and screaming and accusing me of being a baby killer and having blood
Oh, man.
being covered in blood.
Call you the B word? I mean, that's just not acceptable.
And talk about jumping to conclusions.
What?
What the protesters?
I know.
Like they see a person walking into a fundraiser and
Right.
they make all these assumptions
Yeah.
about this person.
Well, because I'm obviously like pro-Israel. If I'm going to attend this event for a group that advocates for the U.S.-Israel relationship, a bipartisan group.
And it's probably actually possible to be rationally pro-Israel and pro-innocent Palestinian. You can be both, right?
Do you like our banner? Are you supporting the deaths of all these children? That I'm like, of course, I'm not
No one.
happy about children who are dead. But one guy was inviting me to an alternate ethnic dinner. I declined that invitation.
We just got a great text from listener Matt
Yes.
at 874-9390. And this is a great callback. He says, I wouldn't fight Jennifer. She cheats because she has brass knuckles on her purse. Which, of
I
course,
should have brought that purse with if I had known. That would have been a good call.
which, of course, is a reference to the run-in that Jennifer had with security and
And
at the airport.
fancy
by
purse.
Clutch,
and by the way,
yeah.
I'm so thankful
Alexander
for
McQueen, beautiful
this. I'm so
Clutch.
thankful for this audience. Doug says it's Jordy, not Gordy. Okay, it's Jordy. I don't.
Yeah, it was Jordy. I
was
totally
Jordy.
forgot it. I
Yeah.
used to watch that show.
And for listeners that missed it in the 6 o'clock hour, because we have a different audience sometimes, a lot of them tune in the whole time, but some tune in and out. Jen, you specifically said that these protesters were wearing masks?
Yeah, you can see it. I at ESQ on Fire, I retweeted some of these protesters' own video of themselves. They were, a lot of them wearing masks, a lot of them wearing, what is the check cloth called that they wear? The pro.
A keffiyeh.
Yeah.
A keffiyeh, yeah.
Yeah, so all kinds of things. But I think the mask, that was just maybe to partially hide their identity. Young group, tons of them. Screaming.
If you asked them, they're such cowards, they would say, "Oh no, it's the COVID. It's the COVID. It's not about that. I'm
you're
not
outside.
a coward. Yeah, right.
Hello.
Yeah, right. It's the COVID."
Very
well,
interesting.
I don't
If
know.
you're really worried about COVID, why are you bunched up so tightly to surround this building and prevent people from getting into it?
Yeah. So we'll have to see what happens. There were a couple of people that were taken and arrested, and you heard some. Did you hear someone heard that they were released? John, you heard that they were.
Yeah,
released.
we heard that, and this was at the Capitol
Yeah,
event.
the Capitol earlier was way tamer, is what I understand, because this is later in the day, and these kids probably didn't wake up until after that hearing was done, you know? That's when they made their way down to Jeff to throw a temper tantrum.
I have no problem with someone standing there lined up, along the way to your entrance and yelling at you. I don't even care about that. It's when people touch you and they
no one
threaten you.
touched
That
me,
is,
for the
to
record.
me, that
and I'm
crosses the line.
grateful to the police officers
Crosses
who
the
were
line.
there.
That crosses
I
the
didn't
line.
know how to get into this thing because I normally go into Revel catering events from the front door. There's no way I could go into the front door because it was completely blocked off. So I asked the officer, I'm like, how do I get in? He's like, go around back. And then all the way around the building, 3 sides, I had to walk by people screaming at me.
So here's an interesting text. Drives me crazy to listen to the voices on this show bemoan the degradation of society's morals and values from one side of your mouth, and then speak with giddy anticipation about the possibilities of AI for the other. I have not been giddy about AI. I just was repeating a text. Surely you can't be naive enough to think that AI won't add to the mess that we're already experiencing. I believe that's possible. I think technical AI, specific AI, when it comes to technical matters, medical, engineering, stuff like that, it can give you a jump start. I am concerned about AI and fake news and deep fakes, and, that's what concerns me. How about you, Brian?
No, AI is definitely something. I'm not sure. I don't get the text there. So I can't see it, but I don't quite understand what the person is saying. I share your concern that, you could have, there's a bill. Adam Schwadron's got a bill, Jen and Randy, that it mentions Taylor Swift, what happened with her about AI. Mm-hmm. She's referenced. I'm not going to, I mean, in Schwadron's basically saying that, this could happen to other people, and then you could have fake news reports. I mean, it's just, it's.
And if the government, we've already got evidence, there's a suit going on to which, Andrew Bailey in Missouri is a part of about the collusion with manipulation of information on the part of the government in bed with big tech. It's not, you don't have to connect too many dots to be worried about propaganda becoming news reporting, right? And that's what worries me. I mean, we see it in Russia with old technology. What's to keep them from manipulating AI in a way that's very convincing and absolutely undetectable as being anything other than the absolute truth?
Freedom. There's multiple AIs. Programs that you can use. So trust it to the consumer to pick the one that is on the up and up and providing them valuable service. Coding, they can help you with coding. You can type in make me a logo that looks like this or that, and it'll just pop up. It's amazing. I guess maybe I'm the person that's optimistic about the technology and the advances, and it's gotten us very far. On a fluke, somehow I have a national Twitter following. I'm in the middle of Missouri, and now all of a sudden, because of technology, my voice I'm able to argue with other, people around the country and discuss the news of the day thanks to technology. And I think there's definitely some drawbacks in terms of phone addiction or whatever else, but we've reaped so many benefits from it as well.
Well, I would maintain that you're right. You're smart, rational, have integrity. You're not going to have a problem with AI. Most of the people in this room, with the exception of Hannah, have a lot of that. No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
No, so all of us here and everyone listening, for the most part, probably will use things responsibly, but it's the irresponsible use of it.
There it is.
And somehow getting a handle on that worries me. But again, you're right. I mean, I guess in America, we always have erred on the side of trading security for liberty, right? We give up a little security and a little bit of certainty in the name of liberty and freedom.
Yeah, they call it the Patriot Act, I think.
Well, we shouldn't give up any freedom for people promising us safety, because they can't provide the safety, but they can take your freedom. Yeah. And that is the wrong road to go down. Other countries have gone down that road, and hopefully we get Tucker Carlson back, by the way. After his interview, they'll let him go. But
boy, there's a big firestorm.
No freedom in other places like there is in America.
I had someone very close to me we got into a discussion yesterday about the fact, what is Tucker doing interviewing Vladimir Putin? Well, no one worried when ABC News went over and interviewed him in 21. Why is it bad that Tucker's interviewing him?
Well, and again, and we've had, let's go back to 1979. 60 Minutes interviewed Ayatollah Khomeini, who had 444 American hostages. Do people not remember that? And by the way, it was a fascinating interview. The key is, what are the questions and things like that. And for people who think Mike Wallace asked the Ayatollah softballs, I remind you that he asked him he asked him if he was insane. The interpreter was so scared to ask him, the interpreter was scared, I think, to death.
I remember that. That was really holy cow.
It was the most incredible interview I've ever seen. Barbara Walters one time interviewed Fidel Castro in a boat. I remember that. It was fascinating. But the best interview I've ever seen with with anybody that's at the time, that was just unbelievable to have the Ayatollah on TV, and it was Mike Wallace sitting down with him, and it was not a softball interview.
Remember when David Frost interviewed Richard Nixon and got him to take responsibility for Watergate?
I do remember that.
Someone interviewed Osama bin Laden too. I mean, I
don't remember that.
It was a minor reporter, but it was.
Yeah, I do. So we've certainly seen stuff like that.
Well, when we come back, What's Hot with Hannah comes up. I understand she has something just absolutely you're not going to want to miss. And Hannah's got something very hot. What's up?
Miracles do happen.
They do.
We are on time this morning, and it's a good day for it because we're going to do a science experiment together.
We are.
Randy?
I'm ready.
If you're listening to this and
like
you
Fauci, I am science, you know.
Okay. Last night, I posted a little video on the Wake Up Mid-Missouri Facebook page.
Okay.
So if you've watched that, you kind of probably know where this is going. But Randy, I put my Stanley Cup in there.
Yeah.
You know, the one that you love to make fun of.
We've been talking about the Stanley Cup. Here it is.
And I love it. Jennifer has one this morning.
Great.
I didn't even put her up to bringing that in.
I'm just trying to be hydrated.
There you go.
Same model, different color, right? Same model. Okay.
Yeah. Randy, if you want to look inside my Stanley Cup,
This is,
I have a gift for you in
This
there.
is very frightening.
It's not going to jump out at you.
Oh, you unscrew it. I'm you know those things you unscrew the cap and the spring pops out? That's what I'm worried.
No.
What is this?
Why don't you take it out and look at it?
Oh, what is this? What is this?
A lead test, it says on the front there.
Lead test swabs.
So, Randy,
Okay,
one of the things that you like to give me grief for is the fact that my Stanley Cup might have lead in it.
Yeah.
And several members of the Wake Up family
Yes.
have, issued the same concern. Now, I have already tested my cup.
Okay.
And I did that in the video that's posted on the Wake Up Facebook page.
Okay.
Or you can follow me on TikTok
Are
at
you telling me I need to-
Randy
producer_Hannah.
has an OG
Now wait a minute.
Stanley thing.
Ladies-
Is that thing 30 years old? Like, how old is
This may
that
have been
thing?
my grandpa's. I don't know. Ladies
wow,
and gentlemen,
it might be older than 30 years.
yesterday evening, dear Hannah, the producer, says, would you please bring your OG Stanley thermos? And I was like, OG, like, what does that stand for? Oracle God? What do you mean?
Close.
You
What do
really
you think,
didn't know
John?
what it
Wasn't
stood
that
for?
close?
It stands for old guy.
Well, I figured
No.
that out, but at first I thought, okay, so what am I supposed
So
to do?
my theory is that out of our two Stanley Cups, yours would be more likely to contain lead.
Oh, you're supposed to wet
than
the
mine?
swab tip with water.
Yes, so I put a little cup of water in there for you.
There, okay.
And you take one of the swabs, you get it wet,
I did.
then you tap off the excess water, and then for 30 seconds you're going to rub the swab over your
I
Stanley.
feel like I'm in the office doing a urinalysis again.
Your part.
It's like a day in the office. I can't escape.
It's a science experiment.
Okay. How long do you
I feel
supposed
like
to
you
do
should
this?
have latex gloves on.
30
Swabbing away.
seconds.
After swab tip achieves mustard yellow color,
Which it does pretty quickly.
okay, rub surface for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We're
Then
wasting
check it out.
airtime here doing this.
Well,
Observe swab tip for color change. Please refer to color bar on the label. Red, violet, or pink swab indicates presence of lead. Okay.
all right,
And
what we got?
I got a great text. While you do that, I'll tell this
no
story.
lead. Look, lead-free. It's a lead-free zone. Lead-free zone. Ah, my old reliable.
Well, that's
The
good
old
because
reliable.
lead poisoning,
haven't
I'll
s-
tell you what, I've looked into that. It makes young kids get lead poisoning. It makes their intellect go down. It makes them more impulsive, more violent. I'm really worried about Flint, Michigan right now because
They vote
they're
for
going to
Biden.
have a lot of crime up there.
They vote
based
Democrat
on
later.
them poisoning that water with lead.
Yeah,
So
that-
the sealant that Stanley uses in their new cups
no lead.
internally
No lead.
has lead in it, but it's all sealed up inside like the mini layers.
Because we did a story on that. Yeah. It's sealed.
So unless your cup is super damaged, you're good.
Do I have permission to bring some soup or ramen or something in here now for
It's
lunch?
a free
next
country,
time?
Randy. Of
I mean,
course you do.
That's up to you, Doc.
All right. minutes later.
I just pulled up Jefferson City government, and there is an opening for a parking enforcement officer for the city.
There you go, Randy.
I'm going to sign up.
And not do your job and get fired.
Well, joining us now on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, along with Jennifer Bukowski, John Marsh, producer Hannah, and yours truly, Randy Tobler, is my former good friend, Ron Fitzwater, the mayor of Jefferson City. I'm just kidding. How you doing, Ron? Good to have you with us.
I'm doing great. You guys are having a good time this morning. It's good to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I saw you last night, so 2 days in a row. Nice to talk to you, Mayor.
I had such a great time the other day having lunch with Scott Fawn, and we were hanging out with him and Hannah, and I brought my wife down. We were over at the Grand Cafe. I parked down there on the street just, what would that be, north of that, and on the hill there. And I fed the meter with 8 quarters, and I thought, well, this lunch won't last 2 hours, but it lasted 2 hours and 6 minutes. And I figured, see, in Columbia, they're a little looser with their enforcement. But I saw this guy. But
they're way more expensive when they do issue you a ticket.
More expensive. That's right. Cost you more. And so I just had a good time finding out that I'd gotten a citation. I saw the guy in the little fluorescent vest walking down the sidewalk near the car. I said, honey.
And they didn't show any discretion.
Said, maybe is he a construction worker or something? No, that was the meter dude. So I'm glad to support the fair city of Jefferson. And I hope that you appreciate that.
We appreciate that. We did take them off of their gators. We do make them walk, and at least we didn't boot your car.
Thank you for that. And you know what I do when it was explained to me, the parking situation is a lot tighter there in Jefferson City. I mean, it took me a while to find it. So I understand why there's a limit on parking and everything. I get it. That's good. But there's
a real nice parking garage that I found a spot in, no problem.
Yeah. So that's first of all, we're going to get to some things about infrastructure, the convention center, parking, and all that. But last night, an interesting thing, we've been talking about it all morning, Ron, and that is that APAC event with protesters blocking, apparently one or more arrested. Tell us about it. You were there.
Well, I was. I did not realize what I was getting into. I got to the corner of High and Madison Street, and we had a police officer standing there, and he said, Mayor, I don't think you want to go and fight the crowd down on the front side. You want to go around back. We do have police officers there, but they will make sure you get in and equally as important out of the building. But you're going to encounter protesters. And, first, I compliment Chief Wilde and the Jefferson City Police Department. They did an amazing job of keeping a very tense situation under control. They were allowing the protesters to exercise their First Amendment rights. I was like Jen. I was accosted. I had a bullhorn in my ear, but no one touched me. And the police were watching very closely. And I think, as you reported, there were a couple of arrests where people did touch people trying to enter the building. But our police department had folks on site. We had, I don't know how many squad cars around and lights, and they did a very good job. Chief stayed in touch with me throughout the evening, just kind of let me know what was going on. But, yeah, I did attend the event. I had not attended that event in the past. Apparently it has not been as active as it was last night, but it was good to go in there and support some very important allies of our country, and it was worth the aggravation we had to go into. I would say just one thing, and I don't know if Ms. Bukowski also noticed that there were people wearing watermelons on top of their head, carved out pictures, and I'm not sure what that referenced, but the rest of the protesters, you could kind of figure out what they were doing. They were trying to upset an event.
Watermelons. I wonder what that's about. I don't know.
I don't know what that was.
Sounds like a pretty seedy bunch. Ron Fitzwater, the mayor of Jefferson City, joins us now.
Ron, I guess for a lot of folks out there, I think of people in Jefferson City, Jefferson City has a pretty rich Jewish heritage. The temple here is the oldest continuously operating Jewish synagogue west of the Mississippi, and many of the downtown, historic businesses in the capital city were founded by Jewish owners. And also, Jefferson City has a pretty strong history, and this kind of protest doesn't go over well.
No, and many of them were at the event. I mean, they were kind of taking it in stride like the rest of us. Again, we've all lost family members, friends, neighbors in wars to protect our rights to be able to speak out on issues that frustrate us. And that's fine. But as long as people understand that your rights end where mine begin, I heard some of your discussion about our Block Thompson, and I feel very confident that he will do what is appropriate in this situation. I think, John, you referenced back to, I guess it was 2020 and 2021 when we had the protests in front of the governor's mansion. Again, they were trying to work with the group that day. It only got out of hand when they started putting their hands on police officers, and I think he prosecuted those individuals, and I think they got some community service in addition. So
good.
Not only were they prosecuted, they got the privilege of driving back and forth. In this case, people from St. Louis to come into Jefferson City to do some community service. So
well, we trust that there'll be zero. Well, we trust that there will be zero tolerance for any kind of physical protest against another person. Hannah, you have an answer about watermelon.
Mr. Thompson's a no-nonsense person, so I feel very confident he'll do what's appropriate for our city and our county.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the watermelon emoji is used on social media to represent Palestine because the colors match the Palestinian flag.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, in terms of that's good to know. That's good information, Hannah. I was not aware of that either.
I didn't know.
Mr. Mayor,
I learned that on TikTok, by the way.
Gotcha. Mr. Mayor, you mentioned that you had a bullhorn in your ear. Specifically, you said that a bullhorn in your ear, and you mentioned yelling. What were they? How many people were there as far as the demonstrators, protesters, whatever term we want to use? How many people were there, and what were they? When you said they had a bullhorn, what were they yelling in your ear?
Mainly the same thing that Jen indicated: baby killer. Why do you want to support people that kill babies? And I think her assessment of the numbers, when you look on those who are on High Street, I didn't go all the way down to Jefferson Street. I come in from the Madison Street side, but there were a lot of people on the back side of the building, and as I left, there were even more. So they were basically just calling you baby killer, and why would you want to support this? And they had, when she put the bullhorn in my ear, there was someone obviously in front of me with a video trying to catch me doing something. So
that's another thing. They had cameras. Yep. Putting cameras up in my face.
What do they think they're going to do?
Walk of shame. How do you like your walk of shame? They're screaming at me as I'm leaving.
Wow. That's scary.
Shame, shame, shame. And then they're throughout chanting free, free Palestine, from the river to the sea, ceasefire now, stuff like that.
John, you have a question for Mayor Fitzwater.
Yeah, Ron, well, we've got you on the air. Talk to us about the council's decision. You came on and talked to us about the proposal for a new downtown Jefferson City hotel with an attached conference center. And now one of the council committees is now recommending Texas Group be the developer.
Yeah, we had two out-of-town proposals, two very good proposals, much different in the way that they would attack the problem. I mean, Garfield Public-Private had been in Jefferson City, I guess, 10 or 15 years ago and was on their way to being the developer when the project back then got sidetracked. They applied, and they have been involved in a number of these type projects with parking structures, hotels, convention centers. And then we had a company out of the Kansas City area that initially grew out of a family company in Texas, Parking Corporation of America. They come in, made a very nice presentation. I think some of the hesitation from Baker Tilly, a financial partner that we had invited to help us kind of sort through the proposals, the overwhelming recommendation was that we go with a partner that had been in that business. I mean, we could go to cities and see finished products, and we just felt like that was the best way to go. But there's still a lot of decision points as we move this process through. So, I just try to tell people, just work with us. We're still in the process of putting all the pieces together that we're going to need. But the recommendation that will go to council on February 20th is that the master developer be Garfield Public-Private. And, again, they can point us to completed projects where they have built similar structures to what we're looking for. So we felt that comfort level was very important.
Sounds like a good plan to see if what they promise is what they're capable of delivering with their history. That sounds like a good plan. What's going on with the tri-level? That's been seems like an ages old problem. Some progress.
Yeah, you guys reported when we had the accident on the tri-level. It's been a few months ago now. We got, the governor commented on it, the lieutenant governor commented on it, Congressman Graves. And so we just felt like it was time to maybe try to push that project forward. We're on the MoDOT unfunded need projects list, so we're at the next step of going to a funded project. The problem is we're looking at a $100 million project more than likely, and our chances of getting it bumped up need a little jump start. So we have invested as a community between the county, the city, and our regional metropolitan planning organization $500,000 to begin the process of a study. It's called kind of the positioning study to get ready for the next step, which is an environmental impact study. So we are beginning. Our goal is, we know we're not going to get it done next year and get it funded, but if we could bump it from in the 10 to 20 year cycle to in the 5 to 10 year cycle, that puts it in a much more reasonable process. But we've got a community group that's working on it. They've done a great job. We've raised, I think the final decision point will have to be made by both the city and the county. We have committed $25,000. We're probably going to have to commit another $125,000 each, but we will have a pool of $500,000 to begin the first part of it, which is called a scoping study.
Good. So the process moves along. Finally, new Jefferson City Parks and Rec director. What's going on in that realm?
Well, we were very fortunate. We had a great number two, Mr. Aaron Griffrath. He applied. That the Parks Commission did a nationwide search, and I think he was very competitive in that search, and obviously bubbled up to the recommendation, and they presented that to the community, I think, a week or two. And then, exciting from the city's perspective, I can kind of give you guys breaking news. One of the things that I asked council to put in the budget this year was to reestablish a position that we'd had years ago, a communications position, kind of a public information officer. We have hired that individual, and that will be announced today. Her name is Molly Bryan. She comes from the Parks Department. She's going to do an amazing job for us, so we're looking forward to her coming on board in about a week.
Hey, excellent. Breaking news here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri with our guest, Mayor Ron Fitzwater of the city of Jefferson. Hey, thanks for being with us. And
well, thank you.
And, I'm just
conference call. The worker actually suspected the scam when he got the transfer request, but decided to send the funds after hopping on a call with characters who looked just like his CFO and his colleagues. Seems the deepfakes are being created using past online conferences that they hack into. One of the police investigators said because the people in the video conference looked like the real guys, the informant made 15 transactions into 5 Hong Kong bank accounts. And the cops say posing direct questions or acting out specific requests, like asking someone to scratch their nose or turn their head a certain way, are 2 ways to help weed out deep fake video calls.
Wow.
To the tune of $25 million.
Oh, my gosh.
No one in custody.
Oh, that's the most frightening thing about scams and, of course, the connection to the ever-evolving technology that makes it so difficult to figure out what's going on.
That's why you need like 2-factor authentication, and you're going to start having like some other system where if it's an unusual large amount of money, like you do a double check, send a text.
So I
like have some other factor check on that. That's really interesting, though. Wow,
Scary, isn't it?
It's
that
weird.
happened. I mean, that happened. Actually, we're the victims of that. My husband, they sent an email, made it look like it came from him, asking to change the bank account for his salary to get deposited.
Yeah.
And they're not in the state, and it's very hard to track down, and it's a significant amount of money before it got figured out what was happening with and the HR felt terrible about it, but
So let me ask
it's
you
hard
this.
to get these people because they're not local.
So for those of you who are so technologically savvy, and I think I'm okay with the basics, but I don't know how to anymore. So recently I've used my PayPal, to which a credit card is attached, to make a couple of online purchases at like the United States Postal Service. I'm a stamp collector, so I buy the annual book. I did that. A couple other things. And then I get this in the last 2 days. First, the message came up, $366 with the $sign after the 366 has been purchase-ed from your PayPal, your order ID. Call us. Okay, clearly a scam. Another one, your PayPal has been debited with $288. Your item has been shipped to Dallas, Texas. How in the world do these scams get started? And can you imagine there are people who are I texted my family. I said, hey, that's weird. I used my PayPal to make a payment, but then I'm getting these. It frightens the heck out of me.
Yeah. Luckily, they're really bad with spelling a lot of the times. And they're the
So it's a
suspicious
giveaway.
URL addresses. It's like, okay, give me a break. Don't click on those links.
You ought to see the spam emails we get to the radio station's email address.
Yeah.
They're pretty entertaining.
Lots of princes.
Yes.
Just need you to give them your bank account
Well,
so they
last
can give you
night-
money.
a picture online, which is very, very clear. I mean, Hannah, there's no doubt about that. As reported here, that Jay Ashcroft had physical contact with a protester. We'll see what goes on with that when we touch base with Jay, and also talk to him about his office and a complaint from Anthony Wilroth, who complained that Columbia officials, Mayor Buffalo and a couple of city council people at the recent meeting, misused public resources because they expressed an opinion. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft joins us now, and Jay, boy, I'm telling you, you're gonna have to get a black belt in karate here. First you're swatted a few weeks ago, and now you're involved in this protest. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I mean, I was just trying to walk in the door to an event I'd been invited to, and they kind of collapsed on me, but things are fine.
So the pictures online show you walking in front of a sign that says APEC event canceled due to complicity in genocide. Okay.
Well,
and
it wasn't canceled.
And it wasn't canceled. I know that was them holding up the sign. It's interesting. They all have masks on. COVID must be rampant down there in that city block around Jefferson City. Is that what's going on?
I don't know. It's really sad that this has come to Jefferson City. I mean, Jefferson City, even when they've had protests, they've been peaceful. I wasn't yelling at them or anything. I was just trying to walk and get to the front door to where I'd been legally invited, and they just kind of collapsed around me and decided to push and shove me, and I guess people are making a big deal about it.
So there's this picture with a couple of cell phones with protesters taking a video, and there's a picture. It appears as though there's someone with their head up to the left part of your chest, and your head's back a little bit, and it looks like your left hand is around this person's head. What was going on in that moment? I was walking, I would have been walking west on the street, so I turned south to try to get into the door, and was trying to get in the door, and someone that was kind of over my right shoulder or something started to get aggressive and physical with me and try to knock me to the ground. And I was trying to just defend myself from that. I mean, it's just silly that this is what happens in Jefferson City when I was just trying to walk in a door to a meeting.
Yeah, Jay, I was there last night too, and I agree with you. I've seen protests in Jefferson City, but nothing to that level of vitriol with the bullhorns up in your ear, with all the cameras in your face, and I was accused of being a baby killer and blood on my hand, covered in blood, and all of these things. And it was quite something. Yeah.
But they said they liked
not your
your vote.
normal Jeff City night.
For people to yell at you, to at least
I was called the B word by megaphone. So, yeah.
Yeah, but it's when people physically, when they attack you, that it goes beyond the bounds. And
yeah, luckily I was not attacked.
As I tried to get the door, that's when they collapsed on me and got physical with me.
When you say, Secretary, when they say they got physical with you, if you'd elaborate on that, and just in general, your thoughts on everything that happened.
As I was just walking up the sidewalk, sadly, I did not know about the back entrance, which would have made this a lot easier.
Yeah,
but I was just trying to get to the door, and as I would, turn and was moving toward the door, people were just pushing me away from the door. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to go this way, and I'm just trying to continue to move forward as people are pushing me away from that. And then as I get to the door, that one individual kind of came at me almost from not really behind my back, kind of over my shoulder, and that was a little concerning that he was being physical, and it seemed like he was either trying to knock me to the ground or and I did not want to go down. That didn't seem like a good idea to go down in a crowd like that.
Yeah. Mayor Fitzwater was on with us last hour and is confident that, I assume that either this assailant or others, because we have another report. Jennifer, you knew someone who said that they were
Ron
touched.
Hicks, one of the organizers of the event, protester grabbed him by the arm, and the police arrested.
And I got a little unhinged earlier in the program, and I apologize for that to the audience. But I just, in light of the general air that Americans see, at least on the national news, about sort of soft on crime prosecution, I'm confident after talking to Ron Fitzwater and the assembled here, John, Brian, Jennifer, that Locke Thompson hopefully will be appropriately aggressive with this prosecution. Would you be in favor of that?
I trust that Locke Thompson will enforce the law. And luckily, I think he will, when people are, just using their First Amendment rights, I think that will be protected, and that should be protected. But when people get physical with individuals that are just trying to walk down the street or walk into a building that they've been invited to, that crosses the line.
Well, after all, I mean, with the Black Lives Matters protests in 2020,
but CNN said those were mostly peaceful.
That's what I mean. It became clear that we've redefined what a peaceful protest is, right? So that's my concern, and I'm worried about a slippery slope, Jay, and I hope that we don't go along with that trend here in mid-Missouri. Now, on another note, this gentleman Anthony Wilroth, who is sort of an anti-police guy here in Columbia, Missouri, complained that during a recent city council meeting, where I guess it's because of there is a recall issue coming up, a ballot issue for one of the councilmen, the mayor and a couple of others, council people, just expressed their opinion that I guess, on the matter. And Mr. Wilroth filed a complaint with your office that this was an unlawful use of public funds. You have responded. Your office has responded. Please explain.
Yeah, and looking upon the law and what was done, there was what the law says. There was no direct expenditure of public funds. And, of course, we also have to worry about free speech rights of the individual that are accused. And I understand that he was not happy about what happened, but this is one of those cases where someone may do something you like, but that doesn't mean it's illegal.
Okay. All right.
So fair to say this case, from your office's perspective, is closed.
Yes. Now, he could file a lawsuit, or there are other avenues he could do, but within our authority, we have to close it.
Gotcha.
All right. We're talking with Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, who was involved in a physical altercation with a protester last evening in Jefferson City at a APAC event that he was trying to attend, and very, very interesting. John Marsh with us this morning as well. John, your thoughts and questions for Jay.
Yeah, Jay, to get off topic a little bit, we haven't touched base with you to weigh in on the whole situation at the Capitol and the filibusters and the Freedom Caucus. I know you've past few sessions, you keep a real close eye on the session over there in this election year. What do you think's going to happen with it all?
Well, the past few sessions, it's been really easy to get a close eye on what was getting passed because virtually nothing was.
Yeah.
I think in some respects, it's maybe too early to have a full understanding of everything, because I think in some respects what matters is, at the end of the day, what gets passed and what doesn't. Do we actually move conservative policy that creates opportunities for people to live their lives more fully and to be the best they can be, or is it all talk? Historically, it seems like some of this stuff has been all talk. I tend to think maybe it's all talk right now, but let's give people the benefit of the doubt. If let's look at what they're able to accomplish, and if they really do move the ball forward and help the people of Missouri, that's a different thing.
Jay, on a national matter, I mean, you're a Secretary of State. You've put out clear signals on this program and others. I've heard you talk about this whole issue of the throwing President Trump off of the ballot, of course, in Colorado. It's coming up to a Supreme Court case. And now it's being reported that Ronna McDaniel has offered to leave her position after the South Carolina primary, and also being reported that Michael Whatley, who serves as general counsel of the RNC, has a strong relationship with Trump and apparently is a very big election. It was a rigged election, sort of on the Trump MAGA team there. That's his stance, is Trump's choice for the RNC. What would happen if that bubbled up again and that became a big issue? Would that in any way affect your thoughts on this whole matter?
I'm just going to follow the law and do my job. I focus on Missouri. There were clearly problems with how other states ran their elections, but I believe that the people of the state elected me to make sure that their elections were run well, that they had accessibility, that they had security, and that they had credibility. we're going to continue to do that. I'm thankful that Missouri has gone from being ranked 10th in the country to being in the top 3 to how we run elections. And I believe the people, when given a fair opportunity, when the scales are balanced on the administration of elections, they do a good job. That's why I'll be in Washington, D.C. today and tomorrow at the United States Supreme Court with other secretaries of state, fighting to make sure that the people decide, not unelected bureaucrats removing candidates from the ballot.
You mentioned that in the heritage rankings, Missouri does do very, very well as far as election integrity. Are there any issues of items of business that you'd like to see the General Assembly do to further, elevate that standing?
Oh, I always have ideas. I'd love to see us make our voter registrations expire and set those in line with your driver's license, so that if you don't get your driver's license renewed because you die or you move out, then we're going to automatically clean you off the voter rolls. But if you are here and you just keep renewing your driver's license, at least for a certain age, then you don't have to worry about it. It's not an inconvenience to you. I'd love to see us require proof of citizenship for individuals to register and for people to vote. I'd love to see us change our residency laws. So no matter how many properties you had, we all know there was one and only one place where you can register to vote. Simple stuff like making people register in their full legal name would help clean the voter rolls. There's a lot of stuff, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to get through the Senate.
It seems so common sense, though. I mean, it seems like that should be a no-brainer.
Generally, common sense goes out the window when it's an election year, unfortunately.
That's frustrating as all get out. Well, hey, we're glad you're okay after the altercation last night. We're going to keep an eye on it and see if Mr. Thompson does bring those people accountable that assaulted you. most of which are good. Apple is showing great revenue because of your purchase. You guys bought an Apple goggles.
Our family has been definitely helping Apple do well as a company for a number of years now.
And in case you missed it earlier, we Jennifer was actually had the app. What's it called? Apple goggle? Is that what's it called?
It's like Apple Vision Pro, but it's being informally called the Apple goggles.
And she was sort of like doing a computer. You were seeing your computer screen in the goggles, right?
Yeah, you can see that, but you can also see the world around you.
It's amazing. It's like augmented reality.
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy. So it reminded me of Geordi in the old Star Trek. Had that little visor on, it had that thing. Either that or you're going
that
skiing.
Thing would be more comfortable. These are heavy. The battery life isn't great, but it is the future, and I'm excited and ready for it.
So the oil prices are up a little bit. U.S. crude production is seen as growing more slowly this year. We've actually had very astounding production. It was reported in December. But the global markets, as the economy recovers, has wanted more. And in another bit of news, Yum Brands reported quarterly earnings and revenues that are down. They missed analyst expectation. What is Yum? Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut. John, you frequent those frequently, right? Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Without fail.
And they're the third global restaurant giant to report disappointing revenue after Starbucks and McDonald's both missed Wall Street's expectations. So a lot going on there.
Well,
and
their price points have gotten so high with so many change.
It's expensive to go through, and people don't have as much money to do it. They're probably cooking more at home and eating a lot more cheaper stuff.
Hannah pointed out a very interesting story. Pizza Hut, in case you want to end your romantic relationship that's gone south, you can go to Pizza. I wonder if the area Pizza Hut, Mid-Missouri Pizza Hut.
Goodbye pie.
You can get a goodbye pie. And Hannah, what is the goodbye pie?
They basically will send a pizza to your, I guess, ex-lover.
Soon to be jilted.
Yes, soon to be jilted lover. They're doing a hot honey pepperoni.
Why would they
pizza?
call it hot honey?
Well,
spicy news delivered sweetly, they say.
This is a brilliant PR stunt by them, because here we are talking about it. I'm giving them free advertising.
And the lid of the cardboard box that the pizza comes in, it says goodbye pie. The heart-shaped pizza has a crack down the middle of it. And it says with love, and then in a spot to write your name.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't know if I'd want to be the DoorDash guy, get punched in the nose when you
talk
hand
about
it over.
assault at the protest, huh? With crispy cupped pepperonis and a drizzle of habanero-infused honey sauce, Hot Honey Double Pepperoni Pizza is spicy, sweet, and savory, the company says on its website.
This is one of the worst ways to break up with someone.
They're going to create a new holiday where you're supposed to buy your exes presents.
That's true.
That's the next thing that we're going to see here. Like, they just make up more and more reasons for people to spend money.
I guess instead of ghosting your soon-to-be ex-lover, this is what you do. A hot honey goodbye pizza pie.
I think they have it figured out if they're not picking. I guess instead of picking them up for the date, they send a pizza and be like, no, that's over. Here's your dinner.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye. Yeah, it's real classy. But it's a PR stunt. No one's good at. We'll see if people do that. We'll have to keep an eye on that.
If any of you work at a Pizza Hut, know it's someone who does or drives for a delivery service, I'd be interested if the tip.
If anyone does this,
and if there's a tip, first of all, does anyone do it? And secondly, does the tip go probably way down, I would think. I think there'd be zero tip if you delivered me.
Reckon your tip big time.
Yeah, wow.
Well, you tip with the app, so that's already done. Well, thanks, Randy, for having me in. I got to get a little early.
Jennifer Mikowski.
Than the mayor and Jay Ashcroft.
Gee, man, I'm telling you,
That's scary, man. Everybody's been in the heart of a big protest like that, and I've been in a few over the years. It ain't no fun.
Well, and now that it just seems as though there's a more permissive atmosphere among people who aren't happy with one thing or another or one person or another, and they feel that somehow they have the right to, somehow assault and get physical with people. I don't care.
Well, God, remember, it's not that long ago, the Black Lives Matter protests. How about the public buildings burning to the ground in Minneapolis and Portland and you name it.
And that's why I went off in the first hour. I don't know what happened, but when I just thought about this and about here Jennifer, she's not a tall woman, and she certainly can hold her own, but she's a relatively petite woman. And, in the middle of this,
she was packing, as she alluded
I hope
to.
so. I mean, and here's the problem. If someone were to defend themselves with that kind of force, who the bad person would be.
No, for sure.
In this media environment, right? It'd be the person defending themselves. I mean, I don't know. You just see that happen too often.
Here's the other thing we have to keep in mind, John and Randy, is if those were MAGA, Make America Great, Trump, Bible thumping, the
gun-toting, Bible thumping, people,
the stuff that you hear, you hear
waving "Don't tread on me" flags.
Would the coverage of it be any different? Would it? I just asked that to the listeners.
Yeah,
good point.
Yeah. Well, and I think
and here's the thing: the mayor said it best.
Yeah.
If you they have the right to do it, they have the right to protest. There's no doubt. But we were unaware of any physical until she mentioned Ron Hicks, and sounds like they touched Ashcroft. Somebody touched Ashcroft as well.
It was more than a touch. Ashcroft. Jay Ashcroft described it as he was trying to take me down.
Yeah, that's
wow.
And I asked Jen where the police. The police, and she thought they had enough presence there, but. I'm not so sure if the Secretary of State was almost taken to the ground.
We've seen these things get out of hand, no matter. I mean, look, the Capitol Police were overwhelmed on January 6th on a much larger scale, right? The U.S. Capitol. So it doesn't take much. And like you say, these days the police it seems like they're on the defensive in terms of when they do what is ultimately usually proven to be the right thing by policy. It always can look ugly on tape. You know what I mean? And so then the media piles on. We've seen the defund the police movement. And I mentioned Anthony Wilroth, the guy who is anti-police. He's just clearly anti-police. And he tries to pick some petty dispute about public misuse of funds. And I'm glad Jay Ashcroft's office said, you got to be kidding me. They expressed an opinion. That's called free speech.
And what he said in this is just a fascinating argument. The argument is the dais itself, and I'd never heard that before, that the speaking from the dais, that would be considered, according to Will Roth, basically public funds because it is at a council meeting. Secretary Ashcroft says there was no direct expenditure of public funds. He says there's free speech. He's closed the case, and that's why I tried to press and said, is it closed? Yes, it's closed. Of course, Will Roth could pursue a lawsuit, but the Secretary of State has closed the case.
And you know what? I think of it in terms of, is there an additional expense beyond there's no extraordinary expense there, right? It's not like they printed 100 flyers and distributed them or anything.
They were pretty brief comments, more or less what they were. Mike has written about it, so have I. I mean, basically because the petitions were submitted, the council pretty much had to, well, there's no pretty much, they had to certify the recall election. And they did, and they have. It's going to go to a recall in April. Either Knoth will be recalled or he'll continue to have a seat. Several council members said they had to vote for it, but they expressed disappointment. Clearly didn't agree with the recall effort on that. Very quick point. We had a guy call in Friday, and I had to get in for the 9 o'clock news very quickly about the roll carts because you asked me to sum it up, and it was impossible to sum up. The guy called in at the end of the show on Friday, and he said that he's very mad about roll carts. I'm paraphrasing, but they ignored the will of the voters. And you said, is that true or not? And here's the deal. Yes and no. And it's one of those, I have to explain it very quickly. It won't take long. And this is why it gets confusing. Yes, we did have an election on roll carts. The caller's absolutely correct. And we had an election on roll carts in 2015. The voters of Columbia voted down roll carts. That is a fact. As Casey Stengel said, look it up, folks. We've reported on that. However, A couple years ago, there was a petition effort led by now Councilwoman Rachel Prophet, interim councilperson for essentially is what she is because she's not running. She was appointed to the seat temporarily. She led as a private citizen the effort to repeal that. She had enough signatures to get it. And the way the charter works is the council had two options. Number one, they could either just outright repeal the ban on the roll carts, or they could put it to a public vote. So that's why it gets confusing. But yes, I think what the caller was trying to say, and he didn't say it quite frankly that like this, but I think what he was trying to say is they should have put it back on the ballot. Right. And they could have, but then they decided unanimously because they had enough petitions. But we've received several emails from people that are livid that we have roll carts right now in Columbia. And then we've also had the story this morning. People are putting them out on the curb with the trash in them. They're not supposed to do that until March the 4th. So it's just, it has been a confusing process. People are still confused, and listeners are telling me they're confused. I had one listener that said that he was under the understanding that his bill didn't say anything about March 4th. Now, my bill did. But this listener said it didn't, but people have put it out there. So just letting people know that. Take a deep breath, everybody.
Yeah. So, Brian, you have an event you want to
I think we should admit, positive thing. It's coming up today. John and I have reported on it. It's pretty basic event, but it's just such a great job with all the mess that we have going on all over and bad weather and everything else. It's nice to have an event like this. It's a ham and bean event, and I know you guys have talked about it on the show. The Lions Club, they're going to have a lunch at the Salinger Center at St. Peter. That will start at 11. Then they're back for, I believe it's 11 to 2, and then they're back for dinner coming up this evening from 4 to 6:30. It's curbside. You can come in and eat it, or you can do a drive-through. It's at the Salinger Center. Basically, folks, it's right down the hill from the Capitol, right next to St. Peter Historic Church, and it's a great event. The Lions Club do a wonderful job. I mean, they're involved in basically everything they are going to make in here. They plow right back into the community, and they do a great job. John and I have been to this event many years.
They do chili, too, so it's a fun event.
Chili, ham, beans, John, and they have hot dogs. And I'm thinking of Marvin Register right now. Register.
Our old buddy Marvin.
The late Marvin Register, longtime KWS listener. He would be there every year. He passed away a couple of years ago, but I'm thinking
former Cole County clerk, and also used to work at the radio station in our marketing department.
He did. Absolutely. I can hear his voice right now in my head, but man, I know if Marvin were alive, he'd be there right now. But it's a great cause, and they help people. So if you can get out there, enjoy it, and I think you'll probably see a lot of lawmakers on both sides of the aisle at this one.
We are very blessed at KWOS and at 93.9 The Eagle to have John and Brian as our news guys, because they tell it the way it is. They don't embellish the truth. They separate opinion from news. Oh, that our national news reporters would do the same. But I'm looking for a little fact check, gentlemen.
Sure.
I was wondering, because you guys are the fact checkers. Can you tell me if what President Biden said was true or not?
People have pled guilty. You know, right after I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting, all the NATO leaders. And it was in the south of England. And I sat down and I said, "America's back." And Mitterrand from France, looked at me and said, "You know, why? How long are you back for?"
So this is our president who said that he was talking to President Mitterrand at a G7 meeting while he was president. Is President Mitterrand the president of France? President Mitterrand died in 1996.
Yeah. He had to be.
He meant Macron.
I'm thinking he meant Macron.
But don't worry, he's with it. He's eligible.
It was a little hard to, and the audio's not all that good either.
Well, here's another one where I'm just wondering, and again, we're having some fun with President Biden, because you know what? There comes a point when you're a public figure, you're clearly impaired, and you don't acknowledge it and have the self-awareness or listen to others around you, that I think at one point I'm conflicted. I don't want to make fun of the man, but at the other hand, I think you expose yourself for ridicule when you should know better. Here's yesterday, or the day before yesterday, when he was talking about the border bill, and then he was asked a question about the Hamas Israeli. There's apparently some negotiations going on about a proposed ceasefire for 4.5 months and a release of, I heard, hundreds, if not thousands, of Palestinian terrorist prisoners in return for the hostage release from Gaza. And here's what he said. Again, another confusing and really troubling moment.
There is some movement, and I don't want to, well, maybe choose my words. There's some movement. There's been a response from there's been a response from the opposition, but yes, I'm sorry, from Hamas, but it seems to be a little over the top. We're not sure where it is.
You guys have followed politicians. I've watched for years, and I think we all have a reasonable amount of leeway for people who speak professionally. I mean, Hannah's very forgiving of the gaffes that I make, not once a day, not once an hour, but once every segment. But I think most would maintain I'm not demented yet. I think we have at this point...
Scatterbrained, yes.
Okay.
Demented, no.
Busy mind. It's a busy mind. Mind. Don't you think in all the times that you've covered politicians, have you seen consistent behavior that seems to be this incapable of elocution, of normal speaking, normal speech from politicians? Do you ever recall anyone, even when Ronald Reagan, late in his term, they said at that time he may have had early dementia looking back.
Possible.
I don't recall this kind of disconnected communication. Brian?
No, and again, those are sound bites you don't really hear on the national news much. They keep them shorter and stuff, so I've not heard that particular clip that you played. Reagan did have, well, we believe, based on, and I've been to his library, he may have had the early dementia towards the end of his second term. But I don't remember that. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't do it. If maybe he did talk that way and they didn't play it. I'm just saying I don't
remember evidence.
I don't remember that.
John, do you?
Well, you talk.
We get involved in things we never counted on. If you hadn't heard this show or seen it, you probably should watch the recap on our Facebook page on Wake Up Mid-Missouri because, shall we say, Producer Hannah, it was frisky? It was lively?
No, I don't like frisky. No.
John, spirited? What would be the best word for today's show?
Yeah, I think spirited works.
Would be the
Yeah.
word.
That's
Feisty.
much better than frisky. Okay, feisty, yes. Yeah. Frisky, no.
Frisky is what happens. If you're not frisky, you get a goodbye pie from
right.
Pizza Hut. Is that right?
Or it's what you feed the cat.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, you caught Drake. You caught Drake in some kind of a unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah.
Who is Drake, for those who don't know?
He's a rapper.
Well, not everyone knows all the rappers.
Oh, well.
For all I know, a rapper is what you take out of your hard candy when you're having a cough. So.
Well, he's pretty well known, at least amongst millennials and younger. But he was trending on Twitter yesterday. You know, Twitter has the little trending page where it tells you the topics that people are talking about.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, that's interesting. You know, I didn't know that he'd released any music or anything. So I click on the Twitter thread. Wish I hadn't.
No.
Someone leaked a video of Drake laying in a bed and pleasuring himself, I guess would be the best way to say it.
We're descending into the depths of...
And
getting frisky now, aren't we?
yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the video was on Twitter, and it was one of those, I didn't know what I was watching until it was too late.
Oh, yeah.
So
Wow.
that was not fun. But yeah, trying to figure out who leaked that video of him, because I have a feeling he probably didn't want the whole world to see that.
My goodness. John, have you heard about the Flip Phone February Challenge?
I have not.
Apparently, there is a new challenge where people trade their smartphones for the simpler throwback form of communication. Now, the other day you shared with me that you had a problem with your carrier and that you needed a patch, and so we were briefly out of cell phone communication when you and I were
exactly. But the carrier helped me out and emailed me the patch, and we were good.
And Randy was panicking.
Makes me think about Randy never panics.
Randy.
It makes me think of the times when you do forget your phone. If you forget especially your smartphone, do you know how anxiety producing that can be?
Oh, man.
I feel lost without it.
But if it's a planned sabbatical from your phone, sometimes that can be very healthy. I did that on Sunday, starting with church. And then for the next, 5, 6, 7 hours, I just put the phone in another room. I just forget about it. You know, one of those. Initially a little anxiety, but then all was good. Until I realized that a patient had contacted me through it wasn't anything that urgent, but I try to get right back on patient texts. And I had missed one. It wasn't anything. It was just a little update on something.
Yeah, I would say, I'm just thinking personally, I would say, boy, this guy, a career physician who walks away from staying in touch. Wow.
Yeah. But I did it because I found myself getting in this frenzy Friday, Saturday about we've got a show coming up next week, got 5 shows coming up. What am I going to do? And I realized I was out on Monday, which actually gave me that. I thought, okay, I don't have to know everything about everything going on or anything about something going on. I thought, okay. John, anything left for you?
Boy, well, the bond issue failed in Ashland by
It did.